time for another round of Brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Reilly Newman and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
Okay, wow. It's time for another episode of Brandy, Reilly. And Reilly, when you think of focus, or particularly brand focus or business focus, what comes to mind? Is there a distinction for you? Some people might see it the same, because we always say, hey, if you have a brand, if you have a business, you have a brand, right?
Yeah.
And if you have a brand, then there's a business behind that. So if we're talking about focuses, is there an easy separation in your mind?
It's almost like how we always say that the business and the brand need to be working together, but there are two focuses. And, to have a business, you do need to have that initial kind of foundational focus of, okay, who's this business actually serving? What's the purpose of it? How is it making money? How do you stay in business? And then that brand focus is kind of that larger strategy, but also like that northern star that you're using as your kind of wayfinder,
your compass point.
Yeah, and then kind of going off that and the business kind of following suit.
Yeah, I see brand focus is that it's that point on the horizon. It's where you want to take your brand. Where do you see your brand? A lot of times we ask, in a business world, or even on your, you go in for an interview for a job, and it's like, oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Okay, so if you own a business and you want to think of it, where do you see your brand in 5 years? Where do you want to take your brand? Ultimately, where do you want to go? Is it you want to be able to charge twice as much for this to a smaller and more higher price point audience? Or no, I want this to be to the masses, and I want to be in every home in America, whatever it is, right? Whatever your aspirations are, because those are two different things, being a small niche in the marketplace, a specialized niche, right, has a certain place, as does availability to everyone, right? Those are two different aspirations for brand focus. But where do you want the brand to go? Because that is going to be, it's that compass point, the point on the horizon, wherever that is, and you're steering a ship. And I've always liked using a nautical ship on the ocean as kind of serves as a good illustration for a brand and a business in many different facets. But in this particular case, I look at kind of as the business is a ship and the brand. But where's that going? Because I feel like the focus of the business is about adjusting the sails for the wind and steering the rudder to meander through certain swells that lie ahead. Maybe those are the marketplace. Maybe those are supply and demand, or competitors getting the edge, right? Whatever it is, you as the captain, as the person behind the business or the team or the company, right behind all that, you're making micro decisions to get the ship forward and to give it momentum and to go. But where ultimately is it going? Are you just going to be meanderingly, aimlessly on the ocean, pointing anywhere without direction? So to me, brand focus implies not just a fixed point, but direction, forward movement towards that goal somehow.
Yeah, gosh, the metaphor is actually really good. And I think good, like we'll get to more of the boat stuff. I feel like that's super spot on. But what you said at the beginning of the aspiration of, if you are going to be this high-end luxury brand or this economical, accessible to everyone, even that
a household name, right?
Between those two kind of worlds, that already, if that is your aspiration, either one of those, it already gives you totally different directions for the business focus, how you handle the business, how you go about the business, even on a daily basis. And I feel like even just in that simple example of high versus low, it's like that alone sets you on totally different courses. And if the business isn't following that and its focus and its day-to-day efforts, then it's going to be off course. And like you said, with the boat and being tossed by the sea of the market and the trends and what's happening or what could go on economically, you got to have that focus, be able to keep steering the ship to stay on that path towards your end goal.
Right. And it's one thing to weather the storms for the sake of survival, so the ship doesn't sink.
Yep.
Right. 2020.
Yep.
We saw a lot of small businesses, not only on a larger scale, but even locally in our area. A lot of businesses that mom and pop shops that didn't make it through COVID. That the quarantine and all that did, and for small businesses, sunk a lot of ships. And I think for a lot of people, running a business is a lot, and just making sure that they can pay the rent, that they can put food on their table, right?
Yeah.
And pay all their employees and also grow, because that's what they ultimately want to do. For some, it's survival mode. For some, it's just getting through this storm. But in the end, I think the brand focus it's almost like a set of glasses, like polarized sunglasses you put on. It changes how you perceive things. And so every decision you make about your business, whatever your business is focused on, you're focusing on the business, the day-to-day, the tasks. And the brand focus is the lens by which you view those tasks and the business focus. Because if you're not constantly running through things through that filter, you're going to start making not mistakes, but you're going to start making decisions that are counterproductive to getting you to that end destination that you ultimately want to be as a business, as a brand.
Yeah. As a business, it's always like, okay, let's keep moving forward. Every day, move an inch forward, move a foot forward, move, a meter forward, and keep pushing that. And even in 2020, I remember businesses, talking on podcasts and everything, and they'd be like, just get the ship to shore. And that was their direction and their overall just objective for that moment of business focus was get the ship to shore to secure everyone. Keep everyone safe and keep the boat, don't let it sink. That was
the ships.
Yeah, just get to shore. And no matter what the storm is doing, it's like get to shore, make sure everyone's safe, they're fed, and hunker down. And that was an adjustment in business focus because everyone got the rug pulled out on them. And then the brand focus was able to maintain through that, and it is that higher up kind of elevation.
And keeping in mind too, business, correct me if I'm wrong, but business focus can change, right? While still maintaining the brand focus. Same brand focus can be consistent while the business focus changes over time.
Yep.
And I'm sure you can probably come up with one or two examples where that is a great example. Apple comes to mind, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like even with business focus, it is even the business model. That's part of the focus. That's how the business makes money, who it's making money from, what is it giving in return for that purchase price and the value. But even Apple, we've seen their business model change over decades, but it's evolved from products, from computers to now service, to digital and service. And the brand focus, though, has stayed consistent through all of that. And that's why that brand has been so solid, is that no matter the original, Macs that came out to now phones, the Vision Pro, all these things, the product design, the design language, the entire mission behind the brand has stayed about, innovation, about
think different, right?
Think different. Yeah, it's through and through, even though things have completely changed on how they really, where they're going on how they're making money and how they're serving their audience.
Apple's brand focus has always been, like you said, one of innovation, one of ease of use, right?
Yeah.
Because back then it was like when the desktop publishing world was first birthing. This was before your time, but not mine. PCs, Windows, Microsoft or MS-DOS, right? Personal computing was for computer scientists. It was for lack of a better term, nerds, people that were got super into that. Macs came out because it was for everyone that isn't that.
Yep.
The thought of code or even a prompt, a DOS prompt, you'd be like, I don't know what to do. And so they introduced the OS, the operating system of the Finder and the trash can and all these little nuances of things that brought it easy to understand and how to navigate the computer. And so they focused on hardware, and it was all about that. And then they changed to service-based, right? Like you said, they started getting into, obviously going from personal computers to smartphones to other peripherals, and then but now it's Apple Music, it's cloud storage, it's innovation wallets, right?
Yep.
I mean, even just everything that Apple does that's even more service based goes beyond the hardware. But their brand focus remains the same.
Yeah.
Be different, innovation, easy of use, right? All those things.
And they did it with the credit card, with Apple Music,
Yeah.
with Apple News,
Yeah.
with Apple TV.
Yeah, they
and
got into
Apple TV
financing
Plus,
and things like the finance world started with computers.
And it was done like when I first saw it come out, it was done exactly how you would imagine Apple would approach it.
Right.
It was clear. There's clarity
Right.
to, this is how much I owe. This is how much I've spent. Unlike most credit card companies, it's like you have to kind of like decipher it almost.
Right. Or let's say someone that another business comes to mind that changed their focus, Netflix, which started off trying to compete with DVD rentals, but now they're doing something new where it's like, hey, we're going to ship DVDs directly to your home. You don't have to go down to the Blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
You can go online and select whatever movie, it will come to your door,
Get in the
free
mail.
shipping back, super easy, right? And then with the birth of the streaming, they were one of the first ones, and Blockbuster didn't get on boat with that, and look what happened to them.
Yeah.
But Netflix changed their model, and now they've gone from service based to now selling physical things. They sell DVDs of Stranger Things, a product that they are making lots of, they have their hand on. They've started producing original content, but their focus has probably always been the same, of providing premium entertainment to your home.
Yeah.
If that's it's not declared that, but if someone would say, what is their brand focus? It may be just that. And so it's how they go about doing that can change. The business focus can change, but the brand focus can't. And I think a lot of times people focus more on the business focus, and therefore the brand focus changes. And they find they find themselves full circle every couple of years. I've used the analogy before that, like it comes to executing your brand. A lot of times people cut corners. Well, I don't want to go for the really nice business cards. I'll just go with these, or, whatever it is. They're trying to cut corners, trying to save money on their brand, on how they're executing their brand's touch points with the consumer. And that's cutting corners. And if you cut 4 corners, guess what? You have a circle. Yeah. So if you're trying to get from point A to point B and you start cutting corners, you're never going to get there, because you're just going to find yourself full circle going, I'm still where I thought I was 4 years ago. And it's because your brand focus is all over the place. It doesn't stay, and it changes as you're focusing on the business.
Yeah. Or it's being determined by the market or by these things that are outside of your control. It reminds me of, I think it's in Alice in Wonderland, the Queen of Hearts. She says, this is where everyone runs as fast as they can to stay in the same spot. And sometimes when you talk to business owners, it sounds like that, where they're so exhausted. They're
on a treadmill.
What?
They're on a treadmill.
Yeah, and it's nonstop.
A hamster wheel.
They're not making any money. They're just like they're better off almost with a W-2 job, where they're taking on less risk and they're not having to wear all the hats. But it's because of that focus. Sure, they might have business focus. They're meeting their goals and meeting their obligations on like product and service, but that brand focus isn't there to propel them forward. And so, like you said, they're just going in circles.
Yeah. So how does what, for the people out there that have we always talk about, if a lot of people don't think they have a brand.
Yeah.
They go, oh, well, I've launched business. I'm going to work on building a brand, soon. And it's like, no, the minute you conceived your business, you had a brand. You have a brand whether you like it or not. Yeah. It's basically, it's kind of like it can be your reputation, if nothing more, right? Before you have a bricks and mortar, before you have a logo.
Yeah. If
you're launching a business and that name's out there and there's some impression that people have, you're already having some sort of brand. That's why even like, what I love about branding is we can apply it to a business, a product, a service, or ourselves, people. We have our own brand, how people perceive us, what language we talk, what kind of personality we talk, what our clothes, are we immaculate, are we detail oriented, are we whatever it is, right? Yeah. We are an extension of ourselves, and therefore we almost have a personal brand. So if the businesses approach it like that, there's always things they have to tend to, but having a focus, it gives drive and inertia behind a business's how they're executing the business.
Yeah. Would you say it needs to be a priority?
Yes, I do. Because everything you do as a business, you should do with the filter of your brand.
Yeah.
And what is that filter? It's its focus. It's where it wants to go. It's what it's trying to accomplish. I think brand focus is the one internal thing that you as the business owner decide, and that drives everything.
Yeah.
I don't know of a brand focus that is dictated by outside forces.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me, but
And
correct
I
me if
feel
I'm
like-
wrong. But I don't. In my mind, that's the clarity I have with it. Is that
I feel like if the brand focus was determined by external, it'd be the cart before the horse. Like there would be
all brands would do the same thing. All brands would exactly have the same focal
like,
point.
oh, we're doing this, we're following this trend, or this new bell and whistle feature. Now it's AI, now it's blockchain, now it's whatever, and that will work for a moment, flash in the pan, but it's not going to be a long-term strategy, and the business will just be no substance to it. And so I think it's kind of like what Simon Sinek writes about is like the why, right? That being the core and that being the brand focus. Just like Apple, the why has stayed consistent through all their product changes, through their leadership changes, through the evolution of that company. And the what and how, though, has changed of how they go about that why, what their overall mission is, and that the products change, how they go about delivering those products from actual, physical products to now digital. That and even like content now, but all of that has changed and evolved and allowed the why to stay intact. And I feel like that's where a lot of businesses need to focus. And like we were saying, like keep that as a priority of no, that needs to be the North Star. This is where we're going. This is our heading.
Yeah. Having that clarity, and making sure it's clear. And going so far as communicating that if you're a mom and pop store with even one employee, right? Or you're a company of 20 people or 2,000, right? I think making sure that the brand's focus, what the brand is about and what it's focused on doing and providing, make sure that's communicated well to everybody behind the brand. Because I feel like that lends itself into other areas that maybe businesses don't think much about with regards to brand touch points and customer service and interaction, right? Some companies do it really well. They have very well trained employees. Like, this is how I want you to answer the phone. This is exactly what, when you see the customer or they come up to the counter, this is what I want you to say to them because it's intentional, right? But along with that is not just telling them what to say, but telling them why we're saying it. Yeah. Telling them and communicating that across company wide, I think that's going to help build a stronger brand. Because if your staff and your employees and everybody behind the brand is on the same page, right? Totally. That can add further momentum to you getting your business to that end brand, to that end destination.
A byproduct of that brand focus is what everyone calls now culture. Of a company culture. This is how we do things. This is who we are, and this is why we do these things. And, people like us do things like this. And that's what Seth Godin always says. And when you have that, then everyone's very clear. Could you imagine, NASA trying to get to the moon and mission control, everyone is unclear on how they're going about this, when to turn the keys, when to press the buttons, when to actually, when we're launching or anything like that.
Why are we going to the moon? Why do we want to go to the moon?
What are we actually doing here? And everyone's just, confused. It's like, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work at all. Same thing with the boat. It's like, no matter what your role is on the ship, you understand you understand the pecking order. You understand what your role is. You understand where you're trying to get to. And that
everyone of the crew wants to get to that end destination.
Yeah, and everyone's on the same page. And I'm like, that seems to be, like you said, it's like neglected within businesses where it's like, okay, they get distracted with, we need to have. They're more like they're more focused on putting the word integrity or family on the wall, right, and not actually communicating hey, this is the vision. This is what we're agreeing to, and this is what we're paddling towards.
Yeah. And I'd even say sometimes too, we've talked about many instances of, about rebranding. Like, when do you rebrand? When do you not rebrand? And I would definitely say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a good time to rebrand would be a time when possibly the brand focus is changing. In other words, if you as a business or brand are pulling off to the curb, right? The analogy of the term, just bring the ship to dock, right? To safe harbor. right? It's almost like a timeout. Like, hey, we need a timeout. We need to regroup, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a brand that's struggling, maybe that's a good analogy for you. Like, you know what? We're not doing well. We just need to, not literally, but just
Circle it.
kind of close shop for just a little bit and regroup, right?
Yeah.
If it's a husband-wife team, they just need to, okay, where are we going with this business, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Maybe it's the board of directors, whatever it is, executive management, and come to conclusions. And a lot of times, if there's shift in brand focus, and then it's a great time. Because with a rebrand, we talked about you don't want to rebrand when you're bored, right? You don't want to rebrand just because everyone else is doing it. But if it signifies a point of change for the business and change for the brand's focus, right? Because I don't think if every time if Netflix for the most part has had the same, and Apple, exact same brand, visual brand, though they've changed their business focus many times. So if every time you change your like hypothetically you mentioned, well, what if we start incorporating AI into a component of our business offering, our service, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone else is doing it, so we should too, right? But if every time you changed a little bit of your business focus, you rebranded,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
That's just going to be constant confusion to the market.
Yeah.
And there has to be things that are and it's different than a refacing or like what I would just say, like a little touch up, a little nip and tuck on a logo or a word mark where maybe, the font is now same, but it's just a little more round, a little more softer
refined
edge, right? Slight tweak to signal, right, to the audience that there's something a little bit new, but that's usually because it's not, we have a new offering or now we offer X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's because the focus of the brand, they've changed their point on the horizon.
Changing the coordinates a little.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is where we're going here. Now we got to readjust a little. And that could be even, you could adjust your brand focus based off of, hey, where's the puck going? We need to skate where the puck is going as a brand. There's been a change in overall, psychographics or just in technology and product development. It's okay to refocus that brand because your why will slightly deviate. It's not this pinpoint, just like your brand, it's never set in stone. And then the business, like even a lot of public companies, like they're doing business reviews every quarter. That's what you hear about when they talk about stocks, and they're doing those things where the board have to get on, the CEO has to talk, and they're talking about, hey, this is how we did, this is our amount of sales, and that's talking about the business focus. But on the bigger scale, it's the brand focus, and the brand can stay the same. And those business focus, those moments of, we were down in sales or we were up, that shouldn't be changing the brand focus,
right,
really at all.
And I'd even say, I think if we stay true to this analogy of like the point on the horizon, at some point you drop in an address on Google Maps, Apple Maps, whatever, right? Shows you the route, showing you the directions, shows you the course to take, and eventually, guess what? End route.
Yeah.
You arrive at your destination, right? So let's say you are that brand that went from, I'm over here, but I want to go very specialized. I want to go very, exclusive, limited, high end. That's the niche for the brand.
Yeah.
And let's say you get there. You're there. That's the audience you're serving now. So what is the brand? In other words, I guess what I'm saying is or the question I'm posing to both of us really is, can the brand arrive at the destination, and can the here and now, where the brand currently is, be the brand focus? Or does it always need to, once it's arrived at that point, it needs to find a new point? Further specialization, further diversification? I don't know. Or is the brand focus of, we want to, particularly like, let's say Apple, where it's like being innovative, thinking different, or something like that, where they're maintaining Netflix.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
if we've dictated that the business focus can change, and that's separate from brand focus. If the brand focus isn't to go anywhere, but kind of to maintain status quo, but just strengthen it, grow it, grow your audience to even more loyalty, right?
again, you got to be $1 trillion company like Apple, where you're like, this is what we represent. The Apple icon, the logo, the brand is synonymous with innovation, with, intuitive design, with user friendliness, all these things. And it's like, then they just hunker down and start fortifying that. And then in everything you're doing, you're just fortifying that, because the quality and the innovation is then seen throughout the product and the technological advancements and everything. But I don't think they're changing their brand direction per se. I feel like it's, again, the why has stayed the core.
Yeah. And maybe Apple's probably the worst case study to bring up as a point to talk further on the topic, because I feel like they're very brand focused innovations. So they're always going to be, they've never arrived.
Always.
They're always going to be like,
and
okay, what's the next thing? Neural implants. Okay. Yeah. That's where we're going to start working on tech for neural implants.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows, right?
But let's say it's a local company. They've grown super fast and they went from, high growth, and they start kind of slowing down because now they have, a lot of employees. Things are just
multiple locations or franchise. They've opened a franchise, whatever it is.
And then and I feel like you have to, again, going back to the ship, it's like when you first start as a business, you're a little dinghy boat, and you can swerve and cut and really move around.
Your naval fleet,
like really fast. And then as you get bigger, you start becoming these larger ships. And just like the Titanic couldn't avoid the the glacier, it's like,
or bridges.
Yeah, or bridges right now. But as the bigger you get, you can only turn so fast. And that's kind of the life cycle of companies, where that's why you get these little startups out of, some garage, and they can take on these behemoths because the behemoths can't maneuver like they can. And so the little dinghy boats are able to get into, little niches in the market and serve them and provide a lot of value and grow, while, the bigger ones they can't do that. So I think when it comes to like the brand focus, they're able to kind of maneuver a little easier. So if a local company is like, okay, we're starting to become a little stagnant on that front, then it is time to kind of almost revisit it and go, okay, what's that next phase?
I think it's interesting you mentioned, I don't know why I was thinking of like a brand that's like kind of not blown up, but like within the last 5 years has really, taken flight and like become more and more popular, and the market sector it's in, I don't know why Yeti came to mind. Where it's like, okay, they make coolers and now, like drinkware and all this other stuff, but it was more limited, but it was like they're coolers. They make really high-end coolers, right? It reminds me of kind of like Coleman. Like Coleman's the big ship that's been in the camping industry for decades, right? And they make lanterns, but I remember old vintage, Coleman coolers. And so I was like, what if, as Yeti, this small little, tugboats like zipping in and around the waves and specializing in creating this high-end thing, and it's growing in popularity and it's growing in size, but who knows, maybe soon Yeti's gonna be making sleeping bags, tents, and thermal wear and other things that Coleman has grown as a brand and developed, but ultimately they're going to become their own big steamship, right, versus more the nautical little two-sail ship that can quickly navigate.
Yeah.
So again, I love the ocean, the
nautical theme.
Yeah, the nautical theme of talking about brand, because it does. It's a good analogy to use.
And there are like different strategies around that too. When they are a big behemoth and they have a threat like that, like even let's say Slack, they started up. They're doing the whole team chat and going around all these companies who, like Microsoft, who weren't servicing that, and Slack was just blowing up. And then Microsoft launched a copycat. I forgot what it was called, but they launched a copycat.
It must have been really successful.
Yeah, it must have been great.
If you can't remember.
But it was, they have the full force of Microsoft behind it, but Slack was able to still prevail because it was so focused. The brand of Slack was so focused on this team chat, communication tool, while Microsoft pretty much means everything now, from gaming to, communication. But the Slack still prevailed in that, even though the big behemoth of Microsoft was able to copycat and try to steal some market from that. These larger corporations will do that, or they'll acquire the smaller one as well and kind of eat up the smaller ships. That's what like Facebook does. Is pretty much anything that is a little dinghy boat, they just devour it. But again, I think with Slack, the brand focus was so on point and so really just like pruned that it worked really well. And I think like what you're saying is like, if Yeti did start doing that, they start losing their focus by starting to provide all these different things. Now they're selling to, you know, people who are going camping, or selling to people who are doing this, or they have this certain scenario, and it starts becoming like, okay, Yeti, for example, it doesn't mean what it used to mean. It used to mean just this.
Right. Yeah. It kind of, if anything, what you were just talking about brought to mind that there is hope for the small brands to go against some of the bigger brands, like, you know, like someone like Microsoft, where it's like Microsoft may have like, or one of the big brands may have this offering, but if they're so diversified in everything they do and they have so many offerings that they may not specialize in that offering and bring out the most of that offering. And it allows a smaller brand to come along that focuses just on that offering, not though everything else.
Yeah.
But that one component of that offering, they do better than the big guy.
Yeah.
They can start drawing people to use that over the big guy, even though you look at going, well, geez, that the big guy's got all the distribution channels and all the money that could back it up and everything else. But their focus is their business focus and their brand focus, maybe in different places and all over the map, right? That they're not going, hey, this one tiny little niche. Yeah. That's not our thing. Well, we do it, right? But it's not our thing. Yeah. It's not in our wheelhouse. And I think for a small brand to come along and go, that is our wheelhouse.
That's all we do.
And that's all we do. And we're going to make sure we do it better than the big brand. Yeah. And that allows smaller growing brands and startup brands to weasel in.
Well, because by definition,
find that niche and get known and get a reputation where people may go, dude, ditch this. Go with this. Because, I mean, yes, you get this, but don't use them solely for all this.
Yeah.
They're, specialize and get this for this because it serves you better.
Yeah.
It's a better product, better service, better quality, or just works better.
Yeah. And it makes me think of, as the business grows, the business focus starts to get out of focus, because there's we start selling this or start doing this, and now let's add in this, and it starts like getting this like really kind of shiny object syndrome, where it's just trying to like keep selling things because it's revenue driven, but the brand focus should then come in and go, no, like stay on target, prune off some of this. Now let's keep moving forward, and it keeps the boat going in the right direction.
Yeah. If the brand focus was dictating the business focus, what was the demise of, say, brands like Blockbuster or Kodak? Kodak was kind of resistance to the digital movement. They kind of were like so full of themselves that like celluloid and that world was always going to just reside. They never evolved in the industry as the industry was evolving so much. Or Blockbuster. Yeah, what about Blockbuster? Why did they not jump into the streaming platform? Why did they? Were they so full of themselves as a brand that we don't need it? Was it that they? I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of I'm raising that question of like.
Well, it's from my perspective, like
they lost focus and they died.
Well, you look at Blockbuster versus like Hollywood Video or your local video place. They're kind of all the same. Like there wasn't really a brand difference per se.
They're for the same movies.
Yeah, and they're shelling over the same movies, doing all that. So it's almost like with those businesses, like with Blockbuster, because Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix at one point, and they turned it down.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, why? What
because
about
I think the business focus was the brand focus. Was no, we're good. Look how many locations we have. We have this many videos. Look at this. We're in all these town centers. We
don't need to invest more money.
No, into where, and Netflix is going with brand focus of technology and innovation, and like you said, the entertainment aspect. Blockbuster and all these other guys were focused on, oh no, we're a rental place. It's the DVDs. They come in, they get the DVD, and they take it home.
Yeah. Well, what separated the Hollywood videos from the Blockbuster videos from the John's Video Palace or the small mom and pop video places, right? Well, a lot of it came down to the distinctions and ways brands, and I want to circle this back around to the brand, like the idea of like, well, maybe you had greater selection. Maybe you had a lot of titles that Blockbuster didn't have or Hollywood Video didn't have, or maybe you had a different thing like, hey, if you come in and it's not there, guess what? We have here's a rain check card for you. So next time it is available, you got it, right? like one of those types of things, or some sort of loyalty program, or things where you can find out, because they're all about basically selling, they're renting out the same movies. So how do brands distinguish? In that instance, it was like finding a way to differentiate themselves, bring greater value to the customer, right? Maybe it's hey, we give you a free bag of microwave popcorn. You come in any movie rental, free bag of microwave popcorn. You go down to Costco, buy up a bunch of boxes. You're handing out Kirkland popcorn like crazy.
Yeah.
Or something like that, where it's like in the small things, right? Brands, again, I'm just falling back on a different subject of differentiating your brand. But as we were talking about video, you brought up the instance of, how do the video rental places, they're all the same. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and I feel like Blockbuster, if they could go back, they would have seen their only advantage over Netflix at the time, because they all have the same movies. It's all the same thing. Their advantage over Netflix was the experience. Because even now, I look back and I loved going to video stores. Like, it was the smell, everything about it is amazing. And they should have leaned into that. They had all the locations across the U.S. They should have leaned into either making more thematic, more experiential, because Netflix couldn't do that. For Netflix to get the amount of locations that Blockbuster had, that would have been insane, because the capital, they couldn't do it because they were very low overhead.
It's so funny, because the thing that I remember the most about I never got excited about going to a Blockbuster to rent a movie. What I did get excited about was when you put on Netflix, when you'd select movies you want, and if they were already out, you wouldn't get them right away. But gosh, going to the mailbox every day, because all of a sudden, boom, I got 2 or 3 red envelopes. 3 of my movies were back in stock, and boom, got shipped to me, and I was ecstatic. Like, opening the mailbox became a fun thing, because I never knew when my next DVD was going to come, or I sent off a couple, and then I knew the next one's in queue, because it was like you rented by like 1 or 2 checked out at a time, right? And so obviously, if one that was super in demand may not be the next one to arrive. Yeah. But when it did come, I was like, oh my gosh. It was like going to the movie. Yeah, it was super fun.
Now it's become nothing. Now it's just like the experience is like, oh, now you're just endlessly searching for another bad movie.
Tell me about it. It's like sometimes it's like, hey, I'll talk to my wife, hey, you want to watch a movie? Yeah. We spend the first hour going between
you feel like
5 different streaming platforms: Prime Video, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Peacock, you name them all. Do we want a show? Do we want a movie? If a show, movie, what do we want? Where do we leave off on this show? It's the point. Like, I wish it was as easy as going Blockbuster as a family and going, okay,
what's there?
Everyone pick up what they have, right? And just on a weekend, it was like everybody pick out one movie and bring it, and we'll rent 3 or 4 movies for the weekend, right?
When we would call the same video store and see if they had either the game or the movie, and we would do different accents each time. Because we were like, did someone return it yet? And then we'd call back with like a British accent.
And you don't, because you don't want to be like, no, Mr. Newman, no.
Stop
in the last
calling.
12 minutes, it has not been returned since you last called.
But there's something about, like, even Netflix getting that in the mail. There's something about the anticipation. There's something about the scarcity. There's something about the experience of that really, now you just have endless. And is that as satisfying?
Yeah. And, maybe we should just retitle this episode to just being, let's just talk about Netflix and the joy of renting movies or something like that. I don't know. But no, I mean, I think circling back, brand focus, it is something that you need to have. It is primary to the focus of your business. It's the filter by which you observe your business and how you're doing your business. And you need to always check through that to make sure that you're on track and you're going to get to that straight point that you have outlined down the road for your brand and how to make it a success. Yeah. So, all right, guys, thanks for checking in. And until next time, cheers.